psychotherapists don't like biological psychiatrists. There's been a tension between those two groups as far back as I can remember. The difference is that the biological psychiatrists are interested in being hard-nosed scientists, and they are hard-nosed. I wouldn't say they're scientists, because they're not psychiatrists, because they all talk about biological abnormalities, and as I've told you before, no biological abnormalities have ever been found. And Alzheimer's is not a psychiatric disorder. I've been a psychiatrist in practice for decade after decade after decade. I had one Alzheimer's case in my practice. A family member wanted to discuss his father's Alzheimer's with me. That's the only contact I've ever had with Alzheimer's disease. It's not a psychiatric disorder. Psychiatric disorder is people who are emotionally distressed, unhappy, messing up their lives, doing things against their own interests over and over again. So, do I think psychotherapy is going to disappear? No, not at all. I think some psychiatrists will go out of the health system and charge patients directly because they want to continue working as psychiatrists. It's possible, were I younger, that would be the option I would pick. But there are psychotherapists by the dozens. There are hordes of psychotherapists around in every Western city. And if they aren't called psychotherapists in Timbuktu, they're called something else. Whether they're called gurus or shamans or witch doctors or wise men, doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. Every culture has always had a system where people, when they're having trouble in their lives, consult a designated person in their culture. In our culture, it tends to be mostly psychiatrists nowadays, but also clergymen. And now there's a lot of other psychotherapists around. Some of them, in my opinion, are quacks. But that might be a cultural bias on my part. I'm kind of a fancy pants psychiatrist, you know, a little over intellectual, read too many big books, and maybe when I look down on some ways of practicing psychotherapy, it's me being a snob. Somebody else has to make that judgment.